Thank you, Avi and Lee. When we after we bless the candles, or one of the traditions of Shabbat evening is a blessing to the kids that we usually don't do. It's something that you do at home, so we usually don't do it here, but because of the Balmi, I do want to mention it. It's page 121. We say to a boy, Yesimcha Elohim ke'Ephraim ke'Menashe, may God inspire to you live like Ephraim and Menashe. That's the blessing of Jacob to the children of Joseph. And Yesimech Elohim kesara Rivka Rachel veLeah, may God inspire you to live like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah for the girls. And we said a priestly blessing, Yevarchecha Adonai v'yishmarecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God bless you and keep you. May God's light shine upon you, and may God be gracious to you. May you feel God's presence with you always, and may you find peace. So with that, I invite you, Ronit, to lead us into the Shabbat 118, the Shabbat candles. Ronit, to you.
Around. Okay. Well, I'm hoping that they can see.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Amen. Very nice. I'm glad to see you in your space. Tomorrow we see you in our space. It's nice to see you in your space.
Thank you.
Oh, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
You unmuted.
Back to you, Lee. In the spirit of our ancient tradition, which unites and sanctifies the house of Israel in all lands, and in all ages, we welcome this Shabbat, a source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness. Help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and into our lives. And with that, we move from the opening phase to the Kabbalat Shabbat, and I'm passing it to you, Professor Williams.
Thank you, Rabbi. And Lee will open this segment of the service with Lechu Neranena.
Naria
Thank you, Lee. And we now continue the special Psalms for welcoming Shabbat. Psalm 96 will be read in English by Liba, and it's on page 132.
Sing to God a new song. Sing to God, all the earth. Sing to God, bless God's name. Proclaim God's victory day after day. Tell of God's glory among the nations, God's wondrous deeds among all the peoples. For the Eternal One is great and much acclaimed. God is held in awe by all divine beings. All the gods of the peoples are mere idols, but the Eternal One made the heavens. Glory and majesty are before God. Strength and splendor are in God's temple. Let the heavens rejoice and the earth exult. Let the sea and all within it thunder. The fields and everything in them exult. Then shall all the trees of the forest shout for joy at the presence of the Eternal One. For God is coming. For God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly and its people with faithfulness.
We now move on to Psalm 98. That's on page 133. Mizmor. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, ki niflaot asa, hoshia lo yamino, uzroa kodsho, hodia Adonai yeshuato, la'enei hagoyim gilat tzidkato, zachar chasto ve'emunato levet Yisrael, ra'u chol afsei aretz, et yeshuat Eloheinu. Hariu l'Adonai kol haaretz, pitchu v'ranenu v'zameru. Rory Zamru.
Zamru l'Adonai b'chinu.
Rory, you're muted.
Zamru l'Adonai b'chinor, b'chinor v'kol zimra, b'chatzotzrot v'kol shofar, hariuf mihamelech Adonai, yiram hayam omlo, tevel v'yosh behiva. Niharot imcha ochav yachad harim yeraneno lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz yishpot tevel betzedek ve'amim b'mei shaharim Yiram hayam omlo, tevel ve'yosh ve'iva, niharot imcha ochav yachad, harim yeraneno.
And we continue after that beautiful musical interlude with Psalm 99 in English. It's the bottom of page 135.
God enthroned on cherubim is sovereign. Peoples tremble, the earth quakes. God is great in Zion and exalted above all people. They praise your name as great and awesome. God is holy. Mighty ruler who loves justice, it was you who established equity, you who worked righteous judgment in Jacob. Exalt the eternal our God and bow down to God's footstool. God is holy. Exalt the eternal our God and bow down towards God's holy hill. For the eternal our God is holy.
So now we are reaching the end of the first section of the Psalms for Erev Shabbat, and we are almost ready symbolically to welcome the Shabbat bride by singing Lecha Dodi. But before we take that step, it seems appropriate just to pause for a few moments and to reflect on the week that's just passed, on our achievements and our successes, but also, I think, on our disappointments, our failures, and our losses, especially at this very taxing time of the COVID pandemic. With Rosh Hashanah now only a couple of weeks away, I'm sure most of us are acutely conscious of those occasions on which we've fallen short of our own standards or our own expectations. And that kind of self-knowledge is really important. But at the same time, we need to be compassionate and forgiving towards ourselves and towards others. The Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai has a very wise and mature understanding of the unique kind of truth that arises out of our human inadequacy, our frailty, and even our brokenness. I know that last week Rabbi Sar read an Amichai poem that he and I had the very real pleasure of translating together. But I'd like to go back to Amichai again tonight because I think he's such an important figure in the whole cultural history of the Jewish people. And I want to take a short extract from a sequence that Amichai calls Summer and the Far End of Prophecy. And in the little segment that I'm going to read, the aging poet and his wife look back on past holidays that they've spent with their children who were then young, and they recall these occasions with a unique mixture of painful joy, but also of bittersweet nostalgia. And let's see what Amichai actually says about human beings and their insufficiency. Through the window that is not there, we see our children searching the old ruin for toys they lost yesterday and turning up broken clay jars from centuries ago. The chasm between generations fills up with dust and sand, human bones, animal bones, a multitude of broken vessels that suggest, of course, the Kabbalistic klipot. Broken jars speak the truth. A new jar is the lie of beauty. Broken jars speak the truth. A new jar is the lie of beauty. And that closing line of Amichai's reminds me of the famous saying of the Kotzker Rebbe, there's nothing so whole as a broken heart. So in that spirit, let's move into the peace, the consolation, and the comfort of Shabbat, with Lee leading us in Lachadid. We continue on page 140 with Mizmor Shir. Mizmor Shir liyom HaShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועליך, במעשה ידיך ארנם. מה גדלו מעשיך, אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. איש בער לא ידע, וכסיל לא יבין את זאת.
צדיק אתה אמר יפרח, כארץ פלבנון, פלבנון יזכה שתולם בבית אדוני. בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו. עוד ינובון בשבע, תשנים ורענה נמיו, להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי ולא עוולת בו.
מקולות מים רבים אדירים, אדירים משברי ים, אדיר במרום אדוני. מקולות מים רבים אדירים, אדירים משברי ים, אדיר במרום אדוני. אדיר במרום אדוני, אדיר
עדותיך נאמנו מאוד, לביתך נאווה קודש, אדוני לאורך ימים. And now we complete the segment of Kabbalat Shabbat with the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144.
יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה, אמן. ועלמא יברך חירותי וימלך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגלה בזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יש מרבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשא ריחו. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו Amen.
Thank you, Meryl, Liba, and Margaret, for this part.
Sorry, Carla.
Oh, Jesus.
Friend.
Oh, why is he on hold? How do I get to the fault? Swapped.
So as we move from the Kabbalat Shabbat, I was thanking Meryl and Liba and Margaret. As we are moving to from the Kabbalat Shabbat section to the evening prayer section, which is on page 146, I'd like to use today and tomorrow the record that we have of our own choir singing the Baruch Hu. I've been showing videos of other ensembles and what people doing in other shuls and how nice it is. So how nice it is what we do here. Page 146, Baruch Hu. Here we go. It was done by Doron Kanar, Avi's son. We continue 148. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בדברו מעריב ערבים בחוכמה פותח שערים ובתבונה משנה עתים ומחליף את הזמנים ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמורותיהם ברקיע כרצונו גולל יום בורא יום ולילה גולל אור מפני חושך וחושך מפני אור ומעביר יום ומהביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב ערבים. Ever living God, may you reign over us into eternity. Blessed are you, eternal one, who brings on evening ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב ערבים אהבת עולם. 150. Glory to you.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשופנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ומצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נהגי יומם ולילה, נהגי יום ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, וברוך אתה אדוני, אמן עמו ישראל.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Israel, bless the Eternal who loves your people, Israel. We are closing our eyes or covering our eyes. We reconnect to the source, reconnect to the one. That's what Judaism is about, being connected to the one, to the ultimate, nothing in the middle. We'll sing the Shema Israel 152, 153, and then Alex will read for us the supplement readings in 154, 155. Here we are, Shema Israel. Back to the Frankel's house. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, wrong one.
Start with Ve'ahavta. It's okay.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol ma'odecha. V'hayu ha'devarim ha'eleh asher Anochi metzavayom al levavecha v'shinonta levanecha v'dibarta bam. Shivtaha v'techa v'neftaha v'derech v'shuvtaha v'kumecha v'kramtam la'ot al yadecha v'hayim la'tzot beinecha v'kramtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor Naver al bnei Yisrael v'ameret Elohim ve'asu lahem tzitzit al kanfei bigdeihem medoratam v'natanu al tzitzit hakanav v'tiot apilet v'haya lahem tzitzit v'ritem otov zkartem et kol mitzvot Adonai v'asitem otam v'lo taturu acharei levavachem v'reinechem asher otzem zonim achareihem laman tiskaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotav v'ayitem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher otzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim le'yot lachem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem emet.
Amen. Adonai Elohechem emet. Thank you, Alex. And this is the promo for tomorrow, 9:30. Join us for the Barmi. Well done. Liam, it was very good to see that you can say it yourself. I saw your lips moving, and I saw that you know it as well. So it's very good. when you're joining a religion school next year, you'll already be ahead of the other kids. You'll be practicing with your brother. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. To be continued. I read in page 157 at the bottom. In a word, 157 at the bottom. In the word, turn by violence and pain. A word far from wholeness and peace. Give us the courage to say, there is one God in heaven and in earth. The high heaven declare your glory, and may earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt, we were delivered. At Sinai, we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again, we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. 158, Mi Chamocha, to you, Rory.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot asef ele, nora tehilot asef ele. Malachotecha rahu vanecha, b'kei hayam. לפני משה זה לי ענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
ונאמר כי פדה ישראל אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Blessed are you, eternal one, for redeeming Israel. We move to Ashkivenu 160, 161. We ask from God, it's part of the evening service only, as we lie down in peace. May we raise up in peace as well. Join me in page 160. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace and rise us up, our sovereign, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace and guide us with your good counsel. For your name's sake, be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. God, our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, eternal one, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all of your people, Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai hapores, sukat shalom aleinu, ועל כל עמו ישראל, ועל ירושלים, and we sing the main verse out of it, פרוס עלינו, סוכת שלומך, spread over us, a shelter of peace.
So
Thank you. The people of Israel shall keep the Shabbat. Back to you, Rory Veshamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש.
And with that, we are moving to the Amidah section, with starting 164, and I am passing it back to you, Professor Williams.
Thank you, Rabbi. Adonai Sfatai Tiftach, Ufi Yagid Tihilatecha. Eternal God, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. And then from Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, every word of one's prayer should be like a rose that is picked from a bush. One gathers rose upon rose until a bouquet is formed and can be offered to God as a beautiful blessing. Page 166. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Koneh HaKol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem Leman Shmo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, ve'Ezrat Sarah. Page 169, we continue in English.
We pray that we might know before whom we stand, the power whose gift is life, who quickens those who have forgotten how to live. We pray for the winds to disperse the choking air of sadness, for cleansing rains to make parched hopes flower, and to give all of us the strength to rise up toward the sun. We pray for love to encompass us, for no other reason save that we are human, for love through which we may all blossom into persons who have gained power over our own lives. We pray to stand upright, we fallen, to be healed, we sufferers. We pray to break the bonds that keep us from the world of beauty. We pray for opened eyes, we who are blind to our own authentic selves. We pray that we may walk in the garden of a purposeful life, our own powers in touch with the power of the world. Praised be the God whose gift is life, whose cleansing rains let parched men and women flower towards the sun.
Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei HaKol. On page 170, Atah Kadosh v'Shimcha Kadosh u'Kadoshim b'chol yom yahalalu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Page 172 at the top. Atah kidashta et yom hashvi'i l'shmecha, tachlit ma'asei shamayim va'aretz, uverachto mikol hayamim, v'kidashto mikol hazmanim, v'chen katuv b'toratecha.
ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה.
Lee has just sung the narrative of the completion of creation and the fulfillment of God's divine purpose. It seemed to me, though, that tonight, instead of continuing with the traditional liturgy, it would be more appropriate to think of where we are in a period of COVID, when a terrible disaster is taking place in Afghanistan, causing huge suffering to so many people. We're in a time when freedom and peace are severely threatened, where democracy itself in some countries is struggling to continue, where human rights and civil liberties are under threat. And so I'm going to read the disturbing, but I think important passage in the middle of page 173. Disturb us, O God, ruffle us from our complacency, make us dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror, the defeat, the bitterness, and the poverty, physical and spiritual, of many humans. Shock us, O God, deny to us the false Shabbat, which gives us the delusions of satisfaction amid a world of war and hatred. Wake us, O God, and shake us from the sweet and sad poignancies rendered by half-forgotten melodies and rubric prayers of yesteryears. Make us know that the border of the sanctuary is not the border of living, and the walls of your temples are not shelters from the winds of truth, justice, and reality. Disturb us, O God, and vex us. Let not your Shabbat be a day of torpor and slumber. Let it be a time to be stirred and spurred to action. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. And so may this passage stir us and spur us to prepare for the wake-up call of the shofar. Page 174, Ritzeh.
Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu ve'amcha Yisrael utfilatam be'ahava tekabel uti l'ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael Amecha, Amecha, El Karov Bechol Korav, Pnei Avadecha V'Hanenu, Shochruchacha Aleinu, V'Techazena Eneinu. Beshuvcha leTzion berachamim, Baruch atah Adonai, hamachazir shchinato leTzion.
Page 176, Modim.
מודים אנחנו לך שיצרנו אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו לעולם ועד צור חיינו וקודח לך, וניסך שבכל יום עמו. אנו, ועל נפלאתך, וטוב עלתך, שבכל ערב ובוקר וצהריים, ערב ובוקר וצהריים. הטוב כי לא חלו רחמך, והמרחם כי לא תנוח חסדיך, מעולם קיווינו לך, קיווינו לך, קיווינו לך, קיווינו לך.
Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, ulecha na'eh lehodot. At the top of page 178, Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael, Amcha tasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael. בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. Amen.
We've now reached the formal end of the tefillah of the Amidah, but in the Talmudic period, some of the rabbis wrote their own searching and profound meditations as a way of concluding the centerpiece of the service. And so we have Elohai Netzor Lishoni, a piece which was written by Rav, one of the great Talmudic rabbis, and which appears only slightly adapted in the Reform Siddur as we have it. And Margaret is going to read the English for us now.
My God, guard my speech from evil and my lips from deception. Help me to be ever modest, holding my tongue even when people slander me. Open my heart to your Torah, that I may pursue your mitzvot. As for all who think evil of me, cancel their designs and frustrate their schemes. Act for your own sake, for the sake of your power, for the sake of your holiness, for the sake of your Torah, so that your loved ones may be rescued. Save with your power and answer me.
Asay leman shemecha, asay leman yeminecha, asay leman kedushatecha, asay leman toratecha, leman yechal tzun yedidecha, hoshia yemincha va'aneni. On that note, let us have a moment or two of silent reflection, and then Lee will draw us together by singing Oseh Shalom. Lee, Oseh Shalom, please.
Oseh Shalom ben Rama
Thank you, Lee and Rory. Thank you, Merle, and Liebe and Margaret, Merle, for the beautiful and profound words and leading us through those two liturgical units, very special, in your special way. We're moving now to page 511, to the Mishaberach, and as we're asking, it's a prayer for healing. As we're asking God for healing, I invite you to mention names of persons that are dear to your heart, and you pray for their well-being, for refuah shelema, renewal of body, renewal of spirit. I would like to mention as a community that we pray for Gilad Kariv, our friend and teacher, Harav Gilad ben Shlomo ve'Avital, who was hospitalized in Israel with COVID. And please mention further names here or in the forum.
Neil Danziger. Mishaberach Avoteinu Makor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach Imoteinu Makor habracha lavoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Mickey. Noted. Noted. Before I move to my sermon, I want to acknowledge Avi and Lee for performing. It's Jessica's Modim. I think it's the first ever time that they performed it. So very beautiful and unique. So it's an internal composition and internal. It's very beautiful. Thanks for that. Friends, tonight on my sermon, I'd like to touch two matters. The one is one verse after the weekly parasha, which is rather puzzling and what to be worth to be elaborated on. And the second is a short eulogy for an important progressive rabbi who passed this week. So let us start with the verse. The verse I wanted to bring forward out of the weekly parasha, it's Deuteronomy 23:8. And it's a verse that took Moses 40 years in the desert before he could say it to the people, and the end of the journey as they're standing in the plains of Moab looking to the promised land. It's a sentence he could not have said right away 40 years ago as they had left Egypt. And the sentence I'm referring to is, you shall not hate the Egyptians, for you were a stranger in his land. You should not hate the Egyptian, for you were a stranger in his land. Just think that if he would say it earlier, the giving of the Torah is only 7 weeks after Exodus, then all the people would say, how can you say such a thing not to hate Egyptians? And who are you to tell us? How would you feel if they would kidnap your baby that you yearn for and send it to the Niles for the crocodiles? You never worked hard as a slave from dawn till dark under the flogging of the supervisors. You grew up in the spoiled palace, and you tell us, do not hate the Egyptians. Who are you to say such thing? So in a way, Moses, Caleb, and Joshua are the only one who are still alive for that generation and who still remember the days of Egypt. And there is a question of timing here. What could not have been said 40 years ago, you can say now. Do not hate the Egyptian, for you are a stranger on his land. I want to elaborate on Moses' attitude. He have seen when he was younger, he have seen the suffering of his brothers, and he killed the Egyptian supervisor himself, who was flogging an Israelite. But Moses also saw the Egyptians from another angle in the years when he grew up in the palace. While the Israelites knew the Egyptians only via the oppression and slavery, Moses knew not only the oppressive parts, but also the wisdom and the science and the art of Egypt, of the Egypt tradition and culture. And in fact, Moses has 3 cultures in him, not 2 but 3, because he also witnessed the Midianites and the nomadic tradition. So what comes out of it, that all the people of all nations, they are good and bad and mediocre people, and among the Egyptians there were as well. For example, the midwives, Shifra and Pua, the Egyptian midwives who protected the babies, who identified with the suffering of the Israelites and were even willing to risk themselves. And other Egyptians who were more real politics, in Exodus 10:4, they say to Pharaoh, until when you will keep this obstacle? Let them go and worship their gods. Can you not see that Egypt is lost? So even if it's not from love of the Jews, but from some kind of a real politics. And even I want to question about, is there another side? Can we look on the situation between the Egyptians and the Israelites from the perspective of the Egyptians? To us, it is clear that they were in gratitude to the contribution of Joseph, that Pharaoh was the archetype of all anti-Semitic in the world, trying to kill us and so on. Let's look on the Egyptian point of view. The children of Jacob, and I think that's relevant for the situations of immigrations today. The people of the Israelites came to Egypt. They guaranteed that they're coming just for the bad years, for the famine years, and they will come back to their land. The 7 years of famine have went generations ago. The Jews are still in the country, multituding. They are not showing any sign to come back to their promised land. They are not trying to merge into the society. They're keeping themselves separate. And indeed, you can say Joseph saved us generations ago, but how long must we be gratitude to his family that he brought with? And this is why the Torah, and later on Rashi, the commentator relating to that, on that verse, he says, even though they've thrown your babies in the Nile, you have to be thankful for them because they took you in their distress. They took you in your distress. The fact that Egypt was willing to take the 70 children of Jacob into their midst and to give them at all, to show them hospitality in the time of famine, that's enough for us, says the Torah. And then Rashi elaborates on that, to remember to Egypt not only the trouble they gave us, but also the element of grace, when they've enabled us to be strangers in their land. So that's something I wanted to elaborate. It's very relevant to the situations of work immigrations today. Now I'd like to speak a few words on Rabbi Richard Asher Dick Hirsch, who died this week. A very prominent progressive rabbi, a great Jewish heart, and instrumental in the development of progressive Judaism in the last generation. And I've met him several times, and I'll tell you what the context. For me, he's like the grandfather rabbi. He's like the grandfather rabbi. He's one of the rabbis of my rabbis. So my two main rabbis in Israel were Rabbi Meir Azari from Beit Emanuel in Tel Aviv and Rabbi Levi Weiman Kelman in Kol HaNeshama. And he was very important in their journey. And because the Israeli progressive movement is still rather young, the things happened. Let's say, and I joined it in the 90s. Then the things that I've heard the stories, and he was still a bit old, but still involved, and we met on the Rabbinic Council and so on. And I'm going to share with you some of the stories that my rabbis have shared with me. So first, in the concrete way, when he was still young and still in America, he one of the establishers of the Religion Action Center, together with Rabbi Saperstein, the Religion Action Center, which is the advocacy and public arm of progressive Judaism for the establishment of the creation of social justice. It's an advocacy arm for public policy. And he was partaking in the campaigns of civil rights in '64 and so on. The big rabbis of the generation were Rabbi Heschel and Rabbi Marshall Meir. He was among the youngsters, but he was involved, and in a way he established the center that would become until today a leading center on that. Then in 1973, he was appointed to be the head of the World Union of Progressive Judaism, that at the time wasn't a big and important organization. And his action, he moved to Israel. He made an aliyah from Israel, and he says, I'm moving with me, the center of the World Union of Progressive Judaism, to Jerusalem. 1973, we are 6 years after the 6-day war, and the center of the World Union of Progressive Judaism had been in New York since World War II. It was a very fundamental. I said, not only I'm moving the center, I'm moving myself and the center there. And in that sense, he belonged to the generation of Reform rabbis who, after World War II, went very strong and moved the American movement with them into the Zionist approach. That was a very important engine in the development of progressive Judaism in Israel and in the establishment of the Israeli movement for progressive Judaism, which I come from. And let me tell you some things. Let me tell you something about Kol HaNeshama. Let's tell you something about Kol HaNeshama and something about Beit Emanuel. So in the sense of Kol HaNeshama, Rabbi Levi came to Israel. It was the end of the 80s, 86, 87, and he wanted to start. He was a conservative rabbi. He was ordained as a conservative rabbi. The conservative movement was not willing to start another congregation or to support him because he seemed to them too radical at the time, and he was indeed radical at the time. He knew Rabbi Hirsch. They were together. He was a rabbi with his grandfather in Temple Emanuel, Chicago, and he gave the first donation, and he made the first contribution, and he helped them to find their space. Then the famous story is that in 86, 87, there was the attack on Kol Shama congregation in Simchat Torah. They were dancing with the scroll, and there was a Haredi people coming and attacking them, and that was making the shift when the mayor of Jerusalem at the time, Teddy Kollek, gave them a piece of land where Kol Shama congregation is today built. And Dick Hirsch was fundamental in picking the phone to Teddy Kollek, tell him, you shame on you, see how you do it, you got to give them a piece of land, you got to give them allocation of land to build their shul. So that's in regard to Kol Shama. As for Rabbi Azari and Beit Emanuel, from my perspective, I was a disciple of Rabbi Levi, still a disciple of Rabbi Levi, but I was the apprentice of Rabbi Azari as apprentice rabbi. So he used to come all the time and to sit there in the Tel Aviv offices, and he was, again, that's that ability to get the Daniel family. In Tel Aviv, it was a bit easier to get the allocation of land, but to get the Daniel family to give the money to build Beit Emanuel, those things on the formative phase, it's you do them or you don't do them. Rabbi Azari was the executive director of the IMPJ back in the days, so I can still remember that they were, Dick Hirsch was the World Union and Meir Azari was the Israeli movement, and there was all the time that working relationship. He believed in the connection between the state of Israel and the Jews of the diaspora, the need of the Jews of the diaspora to be involved in what's happening in Israel, and the need of Israel to reach out to the Jews of the diaspora. And he had a very kind of strong Zionist belief in that sense. He represents his generation, and his memoir is called For the Sake of Zion, like very, very typical. His memorial is called For the Sake of Zion. He had 4 kids, and one of them, Ami Hirsch, is also a rabbi, a very interesting rabbi who is doing much in the mediation between the progressive identity and the Israeli identity. Beloved one and a dear friend. And I want to conclude with a word from the Haftorah, from the prophet. And I'd like it to be kind of the motto I can take, that what we want to do is enlarge the site of your tent. It's on the Haftorah. We want that there will be space in our tent for the people who are looking. It's to open the Judaism for those who are interested and those who need the kind of home we offer. Enlarge the site of your tent. Extend the size of your dwelling. Do not stint. Lengthen the ropes and drive the pegs firms. Then, if we can open the home, open the heart, be able to contain, be able to be inclusive, not to push anyone else, to strengthen our house, by opening it and by making it available Judaism, accessible Judaism. That's the heritage that I carry with me, and the memories that I carry from him. Again, a grandfather rabbi. I had my father rabbis in my lineage, and he's a grandfather rabbi in my lineage. And whenever one of this generation die, then I feel that there is more responsibility upon me and my generation. And maybe we're not brilliant, but at least it's our shift. So may we be able to do and to be authentic and relevant and maybe influential as our great ancestors. Rabbi Asher Hirsch, Yehi Zichro Baruch. I'm asking Max, thank you for listening to me. I'm asking Max to read the names of the Kaddish and Harriet Davis to lead us in the Kaddish.
I'm reading on page 597. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. Tonight, we mourn with Matthew Nell on the passing of his sister Maria, on the 12th of August, which was last week. We also remember Helen Hurwitz, mother of Harriet Davis, Itzhak Kanar, mother of Avi Kanar, Jacob Lack, uncle of Martin Barenblatt, Rachel Menachemson, mother of Merva Menachemson and Cynthia Atrash, Doreen Mendelovitz, mother of Belinda Mendelovitz, Max Merkel, remembered by Miriam Merkel, Lou Milner, father of Glenda Mansell, Frank Schulman, father of Sandy Schulman, Isidore Silberman, remembered by Ruth Silberman. May their memory be for a blessing. Zichnam Abraham.
And Max, can I just add, also we mourn with the family of Tuvia Leb Ben Simach and the family of Dan Montisi, who passed away earlier this week.
V'yitkadal v'yitkadash Shmei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'alma divra hirute v'yamlich malchute v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dachol Beit Yisrael. V'agala u'vizman kariv imru amen. He Shmei Rabbah mevarach li'alam li'alamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yit omen v'yit naseh v'yit chaydar v'yit aleh v'yit halel shmei kudusha brichu Ni'ala min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata diamran ba'alma v'imru amen. Yesh shlema rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael imru amen. Ose shalom bin Ruma u'yase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael imru amen.
Thank you, Harriet. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all. Yeah. It's clear that you're walking on the Hebrew, Harriet. It's clear. You're more adequate. Friends, I'd like to invite our chairperson, Dr. Paul Davis, to give the announcements tonight.
Thank you, Rabbi, and good Shabbos, everybody. May I echo the Rabbi's earlier comment. The content selection, and especially the rendition of tonight's Shabbat, and the sermon and the prayers have been particularly poignant and relevant to this very disturbed times. Sweet, winsome, and painful. This is a great Shabbat for Alex as he begins his bar mitzvah. And it's a time that you will remember, Alex, forever. I'm pretty sure of that. Tomorrow is a very special day for you, and we wish you all the best that makes it a wonderful day. To get to the announcements, there are a lot of announcements in tonight's bulletin, which they're all important, and I may not do justice to all of them. I've selected, I think, some of them. The first relates to the Slichot service next Saturday evening. It's an important service. Because it prepares us in many ways for the high holy days and Yom Kippur. And it doesn't always get the publicity that it should. And I think it's something that we should make every effort to try and tune in to that service. The high holy days are approaching, and we've made a sad decision at Mancom, and is that we're going to only be able to really have a videoed high holiday service, but it will be done in the shul. A rabbi and a few other selected people to who will deal with the technology will be in the shul, but it will be a broadcast service. Now, I know that there have been some issues that have been brought to our attention that the Orthodoxy are probably going to have services in their congregations, in their shul, with no more than 50 in and then maybe a whole lot of people out. But one of the reasons that they have to do that is that they don't broadcast their services in the main. And I think, in truth, we don't know which way COVID is going. And I think we've really got to be more cautious than adventurous. And I think that if you'd all bear with us, that's an important thing. Also, hybrid services, as which tomorrow's Bar Mitzvah is an example of one, are going to be with us probably, certainly for the rest of my time, but maybe for the rest of all our times. So I apologize from our congregation that you can't really come to shul to partake. And there's really nothing that matches personal contact and prayer together. But we have to make do with what I think has been quite successful, this whole video Zoom type of service. It certainly has a certain spirituality about it. And I think we're getting better at displaying it. One of the new innovations for this year in terms of the congregation, because we can't easily meet together, is that we're asking all congregants to make a 10 to 20 second video clip using your cell phone. You know, just introducing yourself or saying something about what you feel, or about congratulations, or just wishing people, good Rosh Hashanah and well over the fast, and to please send these to Morgana. The information is in the bulletin, and we hope to be able to play this over and over again during that period. So make it interesting, make it serious, make it funny, make it profound, but make it. That's the important part of that. One of the big projects that we started with the advent of COVID was our Sami feeding scheme that we run every Thursday at Temple Israel for mainly homeless people, which has been really very successful. And I just don't want anyone to think that you've made sandwiches for a while and it's enough. It's really not enough. Is that we really do require more people to make sandwiches. And it's the making of the sandwiches, I think, that is important. But if you can't make sandwiches, donations are very, very important, because we now have expanded what we donate or what we give to these homeless people, which include sandwiches, fruit, a boiled egg or two, and some soup powder, which we've included in their diet. And this, it's once a week, but it does make a huge difference. And when you see the queues of people lining up outside Temple Israel, it's a heartwarming experience. And the regret is we can't do it every day, but maybe one day we'll get there. And all those people who have continued to make sandwiches for more than 18 months, I thank you very much. And for those people who gave generously to enable us to purchase bread, peanut butter, jam, eggs, sardines, and the things and the soup packets that we can distribute, a big thank you to them. But I think we can do more. And perhaps that's one of the resolutions, if resolutions are in a Jewish context, for the year to come. Poverty is not going to leave us. That is an absolute. It's a difficult time of the year, and it's always around fees and donations and things like that. But we have really been very frugal. We've tried to manage our finances as best we possibly can, and not to reduce the spiritual and intellectual and social quality of what Beit Emanuel offers. And we would ask that if you're in a position to pay some or all of your subscriptions for the year, that would be greatly appreciated. If it's possible for you to make donations in addition to your subscription, whether they're small or large, it really doesn't matter. And we've chosen the Jewish, and I won't say it in Yiddish, but every little bit becomes, every little bit you add to a bowl, it makes a full bowl. There are a number of important, apart from keeping us going, there are a number of important financial commitments that we'd like to make. The first one is that because hybrid services are going to continue for a long time, we really want to upgrade the nature and techno ability that we do. And this is a very expensive item. We've been doing fantastically well with cell phones and computers and, you know, a few microphones, but the quality and the depth of the renditions can really be greatly improved by improving the technology, but that's expensive. But I think it has to be done. This, you know, we just have to get ourselves into that space. Our choir is a very important component of the spirituality of our services, whether they're Shabbat services or High Holy Day services or other festivals, and they add immensely into our extending ourselves beyond ourselves during our prayers. And they sometimes make prayers far more poignant and relevant than they really are, or than they are in words anyway. Not really are, but they're always the same in whether it's words or sung. But singing really does something to it. And we really would like to improve and increase the depth and the depth and ability of the choir to be able to approach us on this hybrid platform, to be able to really get to us in a more meaningful and perhaps other way. So we're spending a lot of time trying to develop the choir. We're spending a lot of time to change things, and we're spending a lot of time to add different kinds of music to some of our services. Some may be good, some may be bad, but we would like you all to listen carefully and give us feedback as to what you think. The next item, which is one of the things that I find very important, is that the wall of remembrance at West Park Cemetery really needs attention. And there's always been a dispute as to whose responsibility it is. You know, we thought it was the Chevra Kadisha or the Parks Board or anybody but ourselves. And in truth, it is ourselves. It's where the progressive community are allowed to memorialize the departed in a very special space. And we've got to look after it. And so there is a fund that we would like to ask you to contribute to, in addition to all the other things we'd like you to contribute to. But this is a very important one. It's a sacred space, and particularly for those who want to come and visit and say a prayer, you know, at the memorial. So this wall of remembrance is something that I think we should try and make it a mission for this year, to really get it into a proper shape. And that's something that we can feel very comfortable going there and remembering, you know, the departed, their memories and our Jewishness, and that we can be proud of what we've managed to achieve. In a different vein, there are the machzors, the daily prayer book is available, and the special machzors for the High Holy Days is also available from Morgana at reception. And then the last is that Limud starts this Sunday, which on Sunday the 22nd. It's a wonderful collection of very interesting topics and selections and speakers. And I do urge you all that this is something that you should be able to tune into and listen. And for me and for now, and I'm sure you're tired of me, may I wish you a wonderful Shabbat and look after yourselves, please.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for that. Thank you. Friends, let's conclude with Shalom Aleichem. I am here in the Shul. Tomorrow, 9:30, with the Frankel family and with Alex. Shalom Aleichem. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Eryah. B'Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malachei Shalom, Malachei Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom, friends. Shabbat Shalom.
Good Shabbos, everybody. Thank you.
Shabbos.
Shalom, everyone.
everyone.
Good Shabbos. Good
Shalom.
night.
Good night. See you in Shul tomorrow morning.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbat.
Shabbos.
Shabbos, Leslie and Glenn.
Shabbat shalom to everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbos, Max.
To Alex and the family. Thank
Shabbos,
you.
Catherine.
Shabbat shalom.
Bye.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Catherine.
Thank you, guys.
Liebe and Margaret, Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
Shalom, Max.
Shabbat
Shalom, Max. Shabbat
We're
Shalom,
down to the bare bones again.
Yeah.
Shabbos. Only 12.
Only 11.
In the main body of the service, there were 53 people.
Mm.
Yeah.
It was a lovely service. It was really beautiful.
Yeah. That's very nice.
I noticed Merle read Disturb Us.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Appropriate.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
That Dick Hirsch used to come and visit my father. I remember him.
The cat one.